Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today, I'm going to go my review of AEW's All In. And man, a crazy historic night for AEW. From the Mercedes Moné Tony Storm match to Adam Page versus Jon Moxley, we get some returns, we get some possible debuts, all happening at this year's All In. We will talk all about this stuff today on the episode for the review for All In, man. Let's start it off with the Death Riders taking on the Ops for the Trios titles, man. I thought this was a really good match. Back and forth matchup between the Death Riders and the Ops, with Shibata and Gabe Kidd both exchanging in the middle of the ring. The Ops were keeping the pace of the match, though. Claudio hits a giant swing on Hobbs on the outside. Samoa Joe and Gabe Kidd both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Samoa Joe hitting a power slam in the middle of the ring, followed by Samoa Joe hitting his signature muscle buster on Wheeler Yuta, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match, and still AEW Trios champions, are the Ops. After the match, the Death Riders attack the Ops, but Joe is taking out on a stretcher. Hopefully Samoa Joe is doing okay. Moving on from that, we have the Men's Casino Gauntlet match, where the winner will be the new number 1 contender for the AEW title. Mark Briscoe starts the match off. MJF is the second entrant of the match. The match itself was a good match, back and forth match with MJF and Mark Briscoe. Briscoe was trying to keep the pace of the match. Ricochet is the next entrant of the match, followed by Bandito. Bandito then hits a press slam on Ricochet in the middle of the ring. Mark Briscoe hits an elbow drop off the apron on Ricochet to the outside, followed by Mark Briscoe hitting a blockbuster on MJF. Takeshita is the next entrant into the match. Takeshita hits a blue thunder bomb quickly on Ricochet, followed by Bandito hitting a poison rana on Takeshita. MJF then goes to unmask Bandito, but Mystico is the next entrant. Mystico then hits a handspring back elbow on MJF. Josh Alexander is the next entrant, followed by Anthony Bowens. Briscoe and Bowens both exchange in the middle of the ring. Roderick Strong is the next entrant into the match. Strong hits an angle slam on Takeshita in the middle of the ring. Takeshita gets up, hits a devastating power bomb on Roderick Strong. Brody King is the next entrant. Bandito hits a frog splash on Ricochet off the top rope. Juice Robinson, we get the return of Juice Robinson. He is the next entrant into the match. Leona then attacks Juice Robinson and allowed Ricochet to hit a shooting star press on Juice Robinson. The Guns are here. We get the return of the Guns. The Guns attack the Gates of Agony. Guns then get into the ring. They hit a 310 to Yuma on Ricochet, leaving Ricochet in the middle of the ring. Kota Ibushi is the next entrant. Ibushi then hits a standing moonsault in the middle of the ring. Beast Mortos is the next entrant. Mortos and King both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Mortos hitting a spear on Brody King. Mystico then hits a springboard Hurricane Rana, followed by Ricochet hitting a running shooting star press. Roderick Strong then hits a Tiger Driver on Takeshita in the middle of the ring. Mark Briscoe then hits a Froggy Bow on Alexander, followed by Max Caster being the next entrant. Briscoe hits a J Drilla on Roderick Strong in the middle of the ring. MJF then throws Mark Briscoe out of the ring. MJF then goes to cover Roderick Strong, pins for the 3. And your winner of the match, and pretty much being the new number 1 contender, is MJF. Interesting stuff there from MJF. Moving on from that, we have a TNT title matchup. Now, this was supposed to be Adam Cole and Kyle Fletcher, with Cole defending the TNT title against Kyle Fletcher. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Adam Cole comes out to the ring. He addresses the crowd, said that he is injured and he'll be out for a long, extended period of time. Now, no one really saw this coming. Supposedly, this was a last-minute decision the day of All In. It looks like Adam Cole suffered a possible concussion on the Collision episode against Kyle Fletcher, which now gives us this fatal 4-way for the vacant TNT title. And the matchup is Kyle Fletcher versus Sammy Guevara versus Dustin Rhodes versus Danny Garcia. The match itself was a good match. Back and forth matchup with everybody involved, with Fletcher keeping the pace of the match. Garcia and Guevara both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Guevara hitting a Spanish fly off the apron. Fletcher then applies a figure 4 on Rhodes. Garcia then applies a figure 4 on Guevara. Both holds are broken. Guevara then hits a springboard moonsault to the outside, followed by Rhodes hitting a crossroads on Kyle Fletcher. Guevara then hits a GTH on Garcia for a near fall. Garcia then applies a Dragon Tamer, but the hold is broken. Fletcher then hits a power bomb on Garcia off the apron. It looked absolutely brutal. Guevara then hits a cutter on Fletcher. Garcia then applies another Dragon Slayer on Rhodes, but Rhodes hits a roll-up, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and new TNT champion is Dustin Rhodes. Hats off to Dustin Rhodes for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have a tag team matchup. It's a high-profile tag team matchup where it would be Will Ospreay and Swerve teaming up to take on the Young Bucks. And the stipulation of this match is if the Young Bucks lose this match, they lose their EVP status. They lose their EVP title. If Ospreay and Swerve lose, they will not be able to challenge for the AEW World title for up to 1 year. Before the match even gets started, I would say Ospreay's entrance was absolutely awesome, as well as Swerve's entrance. I thought it was kind of cool that we see JoJo singing Swerve's original, independent, theme song. I thought it was great. It was great to see her as well. If you guys don't know who JoJo is, she used to work with WWE. I think she used to be a ring announcer, but she's also the wife of the late great. Wow, I can't believe I'm stun locked here. Bray Wyatt. So it was great to see her. I mean, obviously, there's. Swerve was good friends with, obviously, Bray Wyatt. So it was great to see JoJo. I was actually really surprised it was her at first. I was like, man, at first it kind of looked like it was Samantha Irvin. And I was like, wait, what the hell's going on with this? And then when the camera zoomed in, we see JoJo. And I was like, oh, man, this is really cool. It's incredible. I think even a part of the song that she was singing, up in the Titantron, it looks like there was a firefly behind JoJo when she was singing the song on the Titantron. So I thought that was really cool. It was a great touch. And again, man, just shows you how cool Swerve is. Pretty much paying homage, if you will, to the late, great Bray Wyatt. So it was great to see that. And but I will say, too, the Young Bucks entrance, man, it took a long time for them to get in the ring. Holy shit. The match itself, man, it was a great match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between both teams, with the Young Bucks keeping the pace of the match. Ospreay hits a Sky Twister, followed by Ospreay and Matt both exchanging in the middle of the ring. Swerve hits a Power Slam on Nick. Swerve then hits a rolling flatliner on Matt Jackson. Ospreay and Swerve then hit a Sky Twister on the Young Bucks. Young Bucks then hit a Canadian Destroyer on Ospreay. Ospreay then hits a Hidden Blade. Swerve then hits a House Call. Ospreay and Swerve then hit a Styles Clash on the Young Bucks for a near fall. Nick Jackson then spots Prince Nana ringside. He ends up hitting a super kick on Prince Nana. Matt Jackson then hits a low blow on Ospreay in the middle of the ring with the referee being distracted. The Young Bucks then hit a TK driver on Swerve, followed by the Young Bucks hitting an EVP trigger on Ospreay for a near fall. Ospreay then gets up, goes for a Hidden Blade, but missed and takes out Swerve Strickland. This allowed the Young Bucks to hit an EVP trigger for a near fall. The Bucks then hit a TK driver on Ospreay for a near fall. Young Bucks then go for a super kick, but Swerve stands in the middle of Ospreay. Ospreay then hits a Hidden Blade, followed by Ospreay hitting a Tombstone for a near fall. Ospreay hits a Hidden Blade for a near fall, but Ospreay hits a Hidden Blade once again, and Swerve hits a House Call, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland. Hats off to Ospreay and Swerve for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have the Women's Casino Gauntlet match, where the winner will be the new #1 contender for the AEW Women's Championship. We have Chris Statlander starting the match, followed by Megan Bayne being the second entrant. The match itself was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Chris Statlander and Megan Bayne, with Chris hitting a moonsault off the apron on Megan Bayne. Statlander then hits a Faith Descent. Willow Nightingale was the next entrant. Willow and Chris Statlander both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Chris and Megan Bayne hitting a chokeslam on Willow. Ty Mello is the next entrant. Penelope Ford then attacks Mello. Harley Cameron is here. She attacks Ford. Thekla is the next entrant. Willow hits a power bomb on Thekla in the middle of the ring. Julia Hart is the next entrant. She comes down to the ring with Sky Blue. Julia Hart hits a moonsault. Sky Blue then attacks Megan Bayne. Ty Mello hits a pile driver on Julia Hart. Queen Aminata is the next entrant. Aminata and Thekla both exchange in the middle of the ring. Sky Blue then attacks Willow. Mina Shirakawa is the next entrant. Mina applies a figure 4 on Sky Blue. Athena is the next entrant. The crowd erupts. Athena hits a tombstone for a near fall. Thunder Rosa is the next entrant, followed by Cherie, the new, I guess, possibly new debut, if you will, for AEW. Followed by Alex Windsor is the next entrant as well, followed by Cherie. Windsor then hits a blue thunder bomb quickly in the middle of the ring. Windsor and Cherie both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Willow hitting a Death Valley driver on Athena off the apron. Athena, though, ultimately hits the finish, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and new #1 contender for the AEW Women's Championship is Athena. Hats off to Athena for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have an AEW Tag Team matchup, man. It's the Hurt Syndicate defending the AEW Tag Team Championships against the Patriarchy and Jet Speed. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup with all teams involved, with the Hurt Syndicate keeping the pace of the match. Speedball Mike Bailey hits a running shooting star press, followed by a moonsault to the outside. Nick Wayne then hits a cutter, followed by Lashley shoving Christian into FTR that were ringside actually on commentary during this match. Lashley hits a spear on Christian, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match and still AEW Tag Team Champions are the Hurt Syndicate. After the match, Christian goes to leave the ring, but all of a sudden Nick Wayne hits a kill switch on Christian, leaving him helpless in the middle of the ring. All of a sudden we hear Adam Copeland's music hit. Copeland comes down to the ring. Copeland ends up spearing FTR, and then Copeland tells Christian to go find himself. So it looks like we might get a reunion here between Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. Some interesting stuff there between Copeland and Christian. Moving on from that, we go into our first high-profile matchup of the night. It is for the AEW Women's Championship. It is Mercedes Moné taking on Toni Storm. I thought it was a great match. Back-and-forth matchup between Moné and Storm, with Storm keeping the pace of the match. Moné hits a Meteora off the apron, taking out Toni Storm and Luther. Moné then hits a powerbomb on the outside, followed by Toni Storm getting up, hitting a hip attack on Moné in the corner, followed by a Storm Zero for a near fall. Storm and Moné both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Moné hitting a Money Maker on Storm for a near fall. Storm gets up, hits a Tiger Driver on Moné for a near fall, followed by Moné getting up, applying a Statement Maker on Storm, but the hold is broken. Toni Storm then hits 3 Storm Zeros in a row on Moné for a near fall. Moné then somehow gets up, applies an STF, but the hold is broken. Storm then hits an Avalanche Storm Zero off the middle rope, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and still AEW's Women's Champion, is Toni Storm. Hats off to Toni Storm for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have a winner-take-all matchup. It is Okada taking on Kenny Omega. I thought this was a great match, man. Back and forth matchup between Okada and Omega, with Okada keeping the pace of the match. Don Callis is ringside. He attacks Omega, referee being distracted. This allowed Okada to hit a DDT on the announce table on Omega. Okada and Omega both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Okada hitting an elbow drop off the top rope on Omega. Okada then goes to the top rope, hits another elbow drop on Omega. Omega gets up, hits a power bomb into a V-trigger on Okada for a near fall. Omega then hits another V-trigger on Okada, followed by a Avalanche Snapdragon suplex on Okada. Omega then hits a V-trigger on Okada, followed by a Tombstone Piledriver. After that, Okada then hits a devastating signature Rainmaker on Omega. Rocky Romero is here, but Kota Ibushi attacks Rocky, which allowed Omega to hit a one-winged angel, but Don Callis pulls Omega out of the ring. Omega then hits another V-trigger on Okada. Okada hits a Rainmaker on Omega for a near fall. Omega and Okada both exchange in the middle of the ring once again, but Okada hits a devastating Rainmaker on Omega, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and new unified champion is Okada. Hats off to Okada for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of AEW's All In. It is Jon Moxley defending the AEW World Championship against Adam Page in a Texas death match. I thought it was a great match, man. Back and forth matchup between Moxley and Page, with Page and Moxley both exchanging in the middle of the ring. Page hits Moxley with a fork. Moxley is now busted wide open. Marina Shafir then attacks Page. Page is busted wide open as well. Moxley then hits Page with a barbed wire chair, followed by Moxley hitting a cutter on Page. Moxley then brings out a bucket of broken glass. Moxley then drags Page through the broken glass. Page has shards of glass all throughout his back. Moxley then hits a pile driver on Page, followed by another pile driver. Page then powerbombs Moxley through the chair structure. Looked absolutely brutal. Yuta then hits Page with a chair shot. Page then hits an Angel's Wings. Shafir then attacks Page once again. Page hits a Death Valley driver on Shafir off the apron through a table. Page then hits a Deadeye. Claudio then attacks Page. Ospreay is here. He attacks Claudio. Gabe Kidd then attacks Ospreay. Ospreay is taken out. Claudio puts Ospreay through a chair. Moxley and Page then go through a table on the outside. Page and Moxley both exchange. Moxley hits a pile driver on Page, followed by Moxley applying a choke on Adam Page. Moxley then hits a paradigm shift on a chair that looked absolutely brutal. Yuta then gives Moxley the bag. Darby then is shown on a Titantron on top of Mount Everest. And then a masked person gets in the ring. It's none other than Bryan Danielson. Danielson hits a running knee, taking out Yuta. Danielson then attacks the Death Riders. After that, we can see Darby Allin. Darby Allin pretty much suspends from the ceiling, just like you would see from Sting. Page then hits a buckshot lariat on Moxley. Darby then hits a coffin drop. Page then hits a deadeye off the apron onto a table. Young Bucks hit a super kick on Page. Young Bucks then hit a EVP trigger on Page as well. Moxley then brings out a board of nails. Moxley then hits a foot stomp on the nails on Page. Moxley then hits a paradigm shift on Page using the board of nails. It looked absolutely brutal. Marina then goes for the briefcase, but Nana then cuffs Marina Shafir to the bell table, if you will. Swerve then attacks the Young Bucks. Swerve then gives Page a chain. Page then gives a buckshot lariat using the chain on Moxley. Moxley then lands on the bed of nails. Page then chokes Moxley with the chain. Referee sounds for the bell, and your winner of the match and new AEW World Champion is Adam Page. After the match, you can see that Adam Page was emotional. He ends up getting the keys to the briefcase. He opens the briefcase, and we all finally see the AEW World Champion that we have championship that we have not seen since October, man. Number one, there's a lot to talk about and really dissect of what happened at AEW's All In. Number one, the stage structure was great. The aesthetics were awesome. I mean, it was pretty much damn near sold out. But this was history in the making, man. This was a great show from top to bottom. I want to send my regards out to Adam Cole, first and foremost, as well. From what I understand, he suffered a concussion Thursday night. I think it was the Collision taping leading up to All In. He makes the announcement that he's going to have to vacate the belt. He's taking some time off. But my thing with Adam Cole is this. Adam Cole's career has changed drastically ever since he got injured around that MJF situation when he had hurt his leg. When Adam Cole came back, it wasn't the same Adam Cole that we once got. A lot of shit has changed with Adam Cole. And, you know, despite the injury, to be honest with you, it almost seems as if Adam Cole was already kind of checked out with AEW, or even if not professional wrestling. I think Adam Cole's focus and fixations was, you know, a lot different than what he was doing in professional wrestling. Whether it was gaming or doing his YouTube channel or Twitch, I think his mindset was into gaming. And I don't think I feel like the passion that he has for professional wrestling was kind of taken away. And it wasn't there anymore. And then we get to All In, and then he makes the announcement that he's injured. He's not going to be able to defend the TNT title because the original match that was slated for All In was supposed to be Adam Cole defending the TNT title against Kyle Fletcher at All In, but unfortunately, he got injured or suffered, from what I understand, a concussion. And I think this is his third concussion in 3 years. So, I mean, obviously, he is injury prone. A fourth concussion will cause a lot more damage to the body, obviously. And concussions are never fun. So, I mean, obviously, there's a lot to think about. I'm sure Adam Cole is thinking about a lot. His longevity, his career, his health, you know what I mean? And like I said, man, I hope he comes back. I hope he comes back and he just, takes over the AEW's roster. But it's going to be very telling to see what Adam Cole does. I mean, even before he got injured, man, it just seemed like Adam Cole really kind of lost the passion for the wrestling business. It just wasn't the same Adam Cole that we all were used to. So I don't know. I don't know when he'll come back, but again, man, hopefully he recovers, and Godspeed for Adam Cole, man, and hopefully he has a good recovery, and maybe we might see him back on AEW television. But like I said, man, this was a history-making night. All In obviously is AEW's biggest show of the year from top to bottom. It's pretty much the show that everybody really looks forward to every single year for AEW. And I gotta honestly say, man, they did not disappoint. I would honestly say All In was probably the best wrestling show we got this entire weekend, and there was a lot. We got Saturday Night's Main Event, we got Evolution 2. I mean, the deck was stacked against AEW this weekend. But I think All In by far was the best event of the weekend. A lot of history-making moments. We got some returns. I mean, if you're looking at the men's casino battle royal, I picked Darby Allin to win it, or if not MJF. MJF ended up winning the men's casino gauntlet match. He will go on to face the AEW World Champion. I think MJF and Adam Page have some unfinished business anyway, so I would not mind seeing a matchup between Adam Page and MJF for the AEW World Title. The women's Casino Gauntlet match, I honestly, for what it's worth, I think that match was better than the men's Casino Gauntlet match. We got some returns. We got some debuts. I think Alex Windsor, I know she signed a contract with AEW. I don't know if we're going to see her now more on AEW television. We got Cherie, which I don't know much about. And I might have messed up her name, but I think her name was Cherie. I think obviously she wrestled over in Stardom. She might also be joining AEW from what I understand or what I've been told. So it was great, man. It was a great moment. I was kind of hoping more returns on the men's side of the Casino Gauntlet match, whether it be Darby. I know there was a lot of rumors and speculation about Eddie Kingston pretty much almost returning here soon, and he's back to normal, back to being healthy. I thought Eddie Kingston might be a part of this. I mean, we got Juice Robinson, which I thought was great. I think seeing Juice was great. Juice has been out for a while, dealing with a back injury. He doesn't look the same than once we remember seeing him as. We also see the return of the Guns. I think that's fantastic. I mean, obviously they'd be a great addition to the tag team roster, a tag team division that is just abysmal at this point. So it's great to see the Guns. I was hoping to see maybe Jay White. We didn't see Jay White, but we saw Juice Robinson and we saw the Guns, so that was great. But like I said, man, all in all, this was a really good show. I really can't, for people out there that, want to tear down a show, I can't really tear this down. I mean, when we get to Mercedes Moné and Toni Storm, man, this was something, and I know a lot of people are going to have their own opinion about this, and my standpoint on Moné is the same. Moné is in business for herself. And I think she's looking to cash out. I really do. And we got to this matchup between her and Toni. And when I saw Toni win the match, I was actually shocked because, Moné doesn't really put anybody over. I think it was the best move that AEW could have done. It gave me a little bit more respect for Mercedes Moné to allow her to put over Toni Storm in this matchup. So she gained a little bit more respect from me in that aspect. But I think it would have been a complete nightmare if Moné would have walked in and walked out AEW Women's Champion on top of her being TBS Champion as well. She would just hold that entire division hostage. And for what it's worth, man, Toni Storm, you want to talk about somebody who's having one hell of a career. She is probably one of the best, if not the best character in all of AEW right now. That timeless Toni Storm character is absolutely awesome. And she has kicked ass, man, since she's been in AEW. She's done a phenomenal job. And, when she walked out with that AEW Women's Championship, I was like, man, what you talking about, the right choice to make. And now she has to face possibly Athena. I mean, Athena versus Toni Storm is going to be one hell of a match. So, I mean, yeah, Tony Khan did a fantastic job with, helping to make the timeless Toni Storm character, and it's really paying off. What's next for Moné? I mean, who knows? This could ultimately be the demise of Moné. She lost the AEW Women's Championship. Could we also see her lose the TBS Championship? I mean, could this slowly be the demise of Mercedes Moné? That's a possibility, to be honest with you. Because now the question with Moné is, okay, she lost to Toni Storm. Will she take another loss on Dynamite or Collision? Will she lose the TBS Championship? Is this the slow demise of Mercedes Moné where she loses all these titles and she starts back from pretty much the beginning and tries to make her way back up to the main event scene or win multiple championships again? We don't know. But it's definitely something that's going to be very intriguing. I think Dynamite this week is going to be very telling to see where AEW goes from here. So, again, I was super excited about Toni Storm, and I look forward to what's going to happen next with Toni. I think Athena is going to be the next challenger for Toni Storm for the AEW Women's Championship, which will be an incredible match. Kenny Omega and Okada. Man, this match was for all the marbles. Winner takes all, Continental Championship on the line, International Championship on the line for the Unified Championship. A lot of people were anticipating that this match was going to be probably similar to what we've seen from Omega and Okada back in the early days of New Japan, when they first wrestled, when they wrestled in the G1 Climax and stuff like that over in Japan. Obviously, things are a lot different from then till now. Both these guys are getting older. Obviously, Omega was dealing with a lot of serious injuries. Obviously, diverticulitis took him out of professional wrestling for a while. We didn't know Omega was going to come back. Omega's getting up there in age. Okada's getting up there in age. So obviously, these guys, the fast-paced wrestling that we all saw in New Japan, it wasn't going to be exactly the same from what we saw in New Japan. With that being said, did I get everything out of the match that I wanted to get out of the match? Absolutely. I think both these guys tore the house down. I think for what they brought to the table in this matchup was fantastic. You're talking about two of the biggest rivals in all professional wrestling between Omega and Okada. There's a hell of a story there between both these guys. And made for a great match. It really did. My thing is, and I told you guys this on the Dynamite review, is where do we go from here? What's next for Omega? What's next for Okada? You know what I mean? Is Okada going to be defending this title more often? Is Kenny Omega still going to be around AEW Dynamite, or is he going to take some, time off? Is he going to show up when he, randomly? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things going on with Omega and Okada. Like, are we going to see Omega on Dynamite this Wednesday? Are we going to see Okada on Dynamite having a title celebration? Who's next for Okada? Who's going to challenge Okada? Are we going to see Eddie Kingston return to AEW and challenge Okada for the Unified Championship? Is that going to happen? Is that something that's, in the realm of possibility? You know what I mean? So, like, Dynamite's going to be very telling this week to see where the direction of AEW is going for the foreseeable future. So, but like I said, man, Omega Okada, it was absolutely awesome. I thought it was an incredible match. But I look forward to what's going to happen next between Omega and Okada moving forward. And then we get to the main event. The main event everybody was patiently waiting for, Adam Page versus Jon Moxley for the AEW World title, Texas Death Match. A lot of people were up in arms about this match as far as who was going to walk out AEW World Champion. Was it going to be Jon Moxley, and Moxley was going to, continue his title reign and take it to Wrestle Dream, where he will face Darby Allin in Tacoma, Washington in October? Is that going to be a possibility, or is Adam Page actually going to be the savior of AEW, and is he going to walk out AEW World Champion? And that's exactly what happened. But there was a lot of moving parts. I told you guys, did it have a lot of WrestleMania 40, ish to it, if you will? Yes and no. I mean, we saw Bryan Danielson, which I do want to talk about that. Number one, we've known that Bryan Danielson has been taking bumps here as of late. He shows up in this main event match with a Blue Panther mask. He hits that Psycho knee on Wheeler Yuta, taking out Wheeler Yuta. My question now for Bryan, or the fans of Bryan Danielson, is what's going to be next for Bryan Danielson? Is this something that's going to be a one-off? Because my thing is this. He has taken bumps well before this match happened at All In. Is this something where we're going to see Bryan Danielson possibly return to AEW, be very selective on matches that he wants to wrestle? Is this something that's a possibility? Because he's taking bumps. I mean, he took the Psycho knee. He was taking attacks from the Death Riders. Is this something that maybe Tony Khan and AEW is possibly entertaining on bringing Bryan Danielson back into the realm of things? And if that were to be the case, I'm all for it. But it's really up to Bryan. I'm not sitting here saying that Bryan Danielson is going to come back and have a full-time schedule or even part-time schedule. I think it's going to be very, very selective on who he really wants to work with. But is Bryan Danielson returning back to wrestling really out of the realm? Due to the fact that we've seen him take bumps. We saw what he did over in Arena Mexico. We saw what he did at All In. And he took a bump. He took that Psycho knee. He landed it on Wheeler Yuta. Is this something that's in the realm, a possibility of Bryan Danielson possibly returning back to the squared circle? And I think that hopefully we get answers to that. Maybe we might get an answer from that maybe at Dynamite. I don't know. You know what I mean? But again, he was there. He hit the Psycho knee on Yuta, which ultimately helped, Adam Page get the win in this match. There's also that. I mean, I thought Swerve Strickland, if he would have lost to the Young Bucks, he would have turned heel and caused Adam Page this AW title match, but that was not the case. Swerve actually came out to the match. He attacked the Young Bucks. He also gave a chain that Page ultimately, chose to help him win this match against Jon Moxley. So Swerve didn't turn his back on Page, and he didn't turn heel. You know what I mean? There was a lot of moving parts in this matchup. We saw Darby Allin, and Darby Allin, everybody was like, oh, his return is imminently. I've been saying it since he was done climbing Mount Everest. Where's Darby Allin? Darby Allin is going to be the wild card in all this. And then during the match, we get Darby Allin on the Titantron, showing him pretty much on top of Mount Everest, saying a couple words, and then all of a sudden we see Darby Allin pretty much, come down from the rafters, just like Sting would have. Darby Allin comes out of nowhere, he attacks the Death Riders, he hits a coffin drop, and then he leaves. I was kind of hoping more from Darby Allin in this match, if anything, but he came out, he helped Page, and again, it allowed Page to get the victory over Jon Moxley. Where we go from here, obviously, MJF had won the contract to face the AEW World Champion. I think that's the direction that we go next for Adam Page. For Jon Moxley and company with the Death Riders, man, I think it's time to depart. I think it's over. I think the Death Rider situation needs to go. The Death Rider situation for AEW was something that was ultimately killing this company. We haven't seen the AEW World title since last October. It was pretty much locked away in a briefcase that was being carried around by Marina Shafir. And Moxley was taking AEW by hostage, literally. As far as TV ratings were in the toilet, AEW World title was not being showcased. Fans really weren't intrigued with AEW's product anymore. The Death Riders need to go away. It needs to go away. and John Moxley hopefully takes some time off. So I would say a substantial time off, regroups, resets, and then maybe John Moxley will come back as a different John Moxley. I would love to see Moxley, be done with the Death Riders. Claudio goes on a singles run. Wheeler Yuta he can figure it out, and John Moxley goes back to what John Moxley used to be, has the the Wild Thing entrance and everything else like that, and we get the original John Moxley. Because I think at this point right now, that would be the only thing that would save John Moxley in his career in AEW. The Death Rider shit's over. It's done, man. It is a half-assed NWO like 2.0 shit that they're doing in AEW, and I can tell. I mean, Tony Khan was a huge fan of WCW. And the Death Riders was like this knockoff to the NWO that severely just sunk as soon as it started. So hopefully the Death Rider situation's over. And I think it is. I mean, there's nothing else more that they can do at this point. They lost the world title. John Moxley has no title. There's no titles on anybody in the Death Riders. I think it's time to split these people up and let them do their own thing. Put Marina Shafir back in the women's division. Have her go after the AEW Women's Championship or the TBS title. Claudio goes on a singles run. John Moxley goes on a singles run. I mean, we haven't seen Pac. Pac's been dealing with some injuries or some visa issues. It seems like he's more away from AEW than he actually is a part of AEW, so who knows what's next for him. But the Death Rider situation needs to go. It's done. We've dealt with it now for all this time since, last October. It's done. It's time to move on. Hopefully Moxley takes some time off, regroups, resets, and maybe we get the old John Moxley. You can also say the same thing about the Young Bucks and their match, losing the EVP status. What's going to be next for the Young Bucks? Is this something where they turn babyface? Is it a possibility? Do we get the old Young Bucks of past? The old music, the old attire? Because everything has to change now, or it should change now that they lost that EVP status. The Titantron should change. The music should change. Everything, their entire ensemble should change the next time we see the Dynamite, the Young Bucks on AEW Dynamite. Everything should be different for the Young Bucks. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Now that they lost this EVP status, absolutely everything should change for the Young Bucks. Absolutely. To make it official. Yeah. We also get the return of Adam Copeland. Copeland's been out with injury for quite some time. We get the return of Copeland. Copeland comes out and he saves Christian Cage. Now, this is something that a lot of people have been clamoring for a while, since these guys had joined AEW. When are we going to get the reunion of Edge and Christian? Are we going to get the 5-second poses or the 10-second pose like they used to do in WWE Attitude Era? We don't even know. You know what I mean? But what I will say is this. It's great to see the possibility of these guys reuniting. This is something that's been in conversation, has been in the talks for quite some time, since both Copeland and Cage have been a part of AEW. I'm all for it. I mean, this was also a conversation that was had when Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy were also part of AEW, and we were going to get a classic tag team match up here between the Hardys and Edge and Christian, but obviously the Hardys and Matt and Jeff ended up leaving AEW. They went over to TNA, so that's no longer an option at this point. But we can reunite Copeland and Christian, and they can run roughshod on the tag team division. And I'm all for it because I'm a huge fan of tag team wrestling, and the tag team division needs a shot in the arm, because right now it's probably one of the worst things in all of AEW right now. Their tag team division went from being one of the best tag team divisions on the planet to being one of the worst, if not the worst, in the entire wrestling world right now. So they need this, and hopefully Christian does align himself up with Adam Copeland, and they run roughshod. They're probably going to start with the Patriarchy. They're probably going to start also with FTR. I wouldn't mind seeing Christian Cage and Adam Copeland go up against Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley for the AEW Tag Team Championships. I think it's not a bad thing at all. I've been saying the same thing about Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. Those two gentlemen need to reunite. The Bowens singles run and Max Caster singles run, the shit's not working. They need to bring Billy Gunn back into the fold. Billy Gunn needs to align these guys back up and regroup the Acclaimed, if you will, and they need to go after the AEW Tag Team Championships. And them being on a singles run right now, it doesn't benefit Anthony Bowens, it doesn't benefit Max Caster. These guys need to reunite as the Acclaimed and go after the AEW Tag Team Championships. The singles runners, it's just not working out for both these guys. It's just not. And I'm a firm believer, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Acclaimed was working. They were immensely over as a tag team. They worked great as a tag team. They need to reunite as a tag team and go after the AEW Tag Team Championships. And quite frankly, I think they could do it. If they actually reunited those guys, yeah. You already have these makeshift tag teams that did it. You got Jet Speed. You got Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey. There's a tag team there. The Grizzled Young Veterans, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but again, there's a tag team there. Obviously they're not called the Grizzled Young Veterans anymore, but you know who they are. There's them. There's crew with Action Andretti and Leo Rush. There's the Outrunners, FTR. The possible bringing the Young Bucks back into the tag team fold of things. Edge and Christian. You know what I mean? You got Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin as the tag team champions. You got the Von Erichs, Marshall and Ross. They can make a tag team run in AEW as well. Dustin and Guevara. I mean, if they do things correctly, they can actually have a decent tag team division. It's just them doing it and putting it, pen to paper and actually giving us a decent tag team division. You know what I mean? Authors of Pain, AOP. I don't know if they're currently free agents right now. I would contemplate bringing those guys in with Paul Ellering. Why not? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know they're going to be very selective on who they want to bring in as far as AEW. And I don't blame Tony Khan for doing that. But Authors of Pain can shake up things for the AEW tag team division. I would bring them in. If they're available, bring them in. Absolutely. Dakota Kai, when she's a free agent, I think late July, bring her in. Isla Dawn, she's also been heavily rumored and speculated to be joining AEW. Bring her in. Start building a women's strong division in AEW. Absolutely. Let's get some new names. Let's get some new challengers. They brought in Alex Windsor. All right, well, let's put her on TV now. Let's get her name out there. Let's make her a suitable, challenger to whether it's the TBS title for Mercedes Moné or a possible AEW World Championship against Toni Storm. Let's start picking up the pace here. Megan Bayne can get more matches and bring more spotlight to Megan Bayne. Camille, if she's still with AEW, let's bring her back in. Have her go up against Megan Bayne. It'd be a high-profile matchup. Serena Deeb. Where's Nyla Rose? Where's Sheeta? Where's Rio? You know what I mean? Like, let's start bringing these names back into the fold of AEW and start getting AEW back to what it once was in its glory days. And I think for me, and I've been saying this, AEW has been patiently waiting and desperately needed to hit the reset button. Maybe after this, what happened at All In, maybe this is their reset button going into AEW. Maybe they give a little bit more power back to the fans. Now that the Young Bucks lost their EVP status, we get some more high-profile matches, more entertaining storylines, more captivating storylines, more investment into the product, and I think that's what AEW needs. And hopefully we get back to that. Hopefully we do. The Death Rider situation is gone. We get back to what the fans actually love about AEW, and Tony Khan and AEW actually give the fans what they've been patiently wanting. If Swerve's saying let's put the power back into the fans' hands. Well, let's see it. Let's see if it actually comes to fruition. Let's get compelling storylines, man. Let's have some fun again. Let's see where this goes. Let's go back to what AEW once was in the first 3 years of its existence. That's what we want. We want the excitement. We want the rush. We want the surprising debuts, the great storylines, the great moments. That's what we want. And that's what the fans have been patiently waiting for now for the past 2 years. So it's time, if what Swerve is saying and Ospreay is saying, let's put the power back in the fans' hands. Well, let's see them actually do that. Let's see Tony Khan actually, loosen the reins a little bit and see what they can actually do. And have some fun with it. Because I'm telling you right now that Paige is world champion, Toni Storm retained her AEW World Championship, the Young Bucks lost their EVP status, we get the return of Copeland, we get some debuts, we get the return of Juice Robinson, the Guns. Let's see where this can go, man. Let's have some fun. Let's see where this can go and actually make AEW fun again. And I think that's really what ultimately destroyed AEW. They lost the feeling of having fun. Have some fun, man. Give the fans some excitement. Let's get some funny storylines, compelling storylines. I don't give a shit if they're hilarious. Give us something that we can hold on to and sink our teeth into. Because if we can get that, then you're going to get the people that want to tune in week in and week out on your weekly episodic television every single week, whether it be Dynamite or Collision. Let's have some fun again, man. Let's go back to what brought us to the dance. You know what I mean? And have some fun. Darby Allin's back. I'm sure Darby has some things to say. Who knows? Now that Darby's back, are we going to see Sting reunite himself up with Darby Allin? Is Sting going to manage Darby? Is he going to be, waiting in the balance for Darby Allin? Are we going to see Sting back on AEW television again? Anything's possible. Why not? I know Darby was working out, training Sting's kid to allow Sting's kid to come into the wrestling business. Are we going to see the Sting around Darby Allin? You know what I mean? Because it's hard to see Darby Allin without Sting, to be honest with you. Those guys spend a lot of time together. So we could possibly see the return of Sting. Maybe not in the wrestling ring, but being a manager or on-screen presence in AEW, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Marshall and Ross, the Von Erichs, let's see them in the tag team division. I know Kevin Von Erich signed a Legends deal with AEW. Let's see him on AEW television. He's here to be, a mentor and, a trainer and all this other stuff that they signed him for. Let's see it. Let's see Marshall and Ross in the tag team division. Let's see them go after the AEW tag team championships. You know what I mean? You're signing these people. Let's see them on AEW television. Let's see what they can do. Not just Ring of Honor, because you go to Ring of Honor, no one sees what you can do. No one cares what you can do. And that's why I'm so damn happy Athena won that contract and that Women's Casino Gauntlet match, because now you have to see her on AEW television. She's got that contract. Athena should have been on AEW television a long time ago. And now we might get the possibility of actually seeing her more prevalent on AEW television now, rather than her being stuck over at Ring of Honor. You know what I mean? Yeah, she was Ring of Honor, longest reigning women's champion for Ring of Honor, but Ring of Honor's behind a paywall. You know what I mean? With all due respect to Ring of Honor, Athena is a main roster talent, and she should have been on AEW television a long time ago. So we're going to see how that plays out now that she has that contract. Like I said, MJF has the contract now. He's going to be going after Adam Page for that world title. He wants his Triple B back. So we're going to see how this plays out, man. But it's going to be very telling to see what's next. And I think that's the biggest question coming out of All In, is what's next? What's next for Omega? What's next for Okada, MJF, Adam Page, Tony Storm? What's next for Mercedes Moné? You know, what are we going to see from Darby Allin? Are we going to hear anything from Bryan Danielson? Or what's next for the Young Bucks now that they lost their EVP status? There's a lot of questions that still yet to be answered, following AEW's All In. And hopefully we get some kind of answers to these questions this week on Dynamite, because I'm telling you right now, I think Dynamite should be very telling to see where the direction of AEW is going for the foreseeable future, and I'm locked in for it, man. I think it's going to be absolutely awesome. But with that being said, this is my review of AEW's All In. I hope you guys are out there